Hello out there to all my artists. Now last week we discussed line, and this week we will discuss shape and form. Now you already know about 2D shapes, but we really haven't discussed form yet, and form refers to an artwork's 3D shape. Now this could refer to the artwork's literal 3D shape or to its implied 3D shape like in this painting. Notice how it feels like you can see the whole city and the buildings have space. Now there's a few ways that we can show form or give the illusion of 3D shape, and that is with directional lines, which I'll show you in a second, shading, which we will go over a lot this year, and perspective or space. So notice how my hands look like they're in front of one another. We can see the space, and when I move my hand back, one is a lot smaller than the other one. That has to deal with perspective. We can use all of these things to show form. Continue watching the rest of this video to learn more about form and to learn how to do your activity. For this activity, go into Seesaw and take a screenshot of your student template. Then open up Sketches School, click on the yellow notebook, and open a new page. To bring in your picture, click on the three little dots, the box with the arrow pointing in, Photo, choose your picture, resize it so it's easier to draw on, hit the check mark when you are done. For this week, we're going to focus on showing form through shading. And the very first thing we need to do before we start actually shading our balloon dog is deciding a light source. I'm using a yellow marker and putting a little light source on the top left hand side of the page. For this assignment, you'll want to use the paint roller tool. Click on the very top square, which is the lightest color or the least amount of color, and you can choose any color to use for this project. I'm going to choose blue. I like to zoom in on the drawing and work only on one section of the balloon dog at a time, so one outline section at a time. First things first, I'm going to trace the entire balloon and color the whole thing in. Then I'm going to make crescent shapes, or almost like jelly bean shapes, on the opposite side from the light source, because our shadows are going to be on the opposite side. Every time you draw a shape with this tool, you're adding a layer of paint and creating a shade. Notice that I'm leaving the area where my highlight should be blank. I am also adding shadows where balloons touch other balloons or where a balloon might cast a shadow. This should take several layers. The more shades you add to your picture, the more it'll look like your balloon dog has form. Notice that I'm not putting the shadow or the darkest area close to the edge. I'm leaving a little bit of space there, and this is because we'll add reflective light there later. Now continue using the same process for the rest of the dog. I will put maps at the end of this video to show you where each of your highlights are, where each of your shadows are, and where to place your reflective light. Make sure you keep watching until the end of this video. The highlights and the reflective light I just mentioned, I will show you how to do in just a second. Remember, you can pause the video at any time or replay the video anytime to see where I added shading. Now that we have finished placing our shadows, we need to add the highlights. Make sure you are still using the paint roller tool, but now you will choose the color white. Now let's zoom in and start placing our highlights on the areas of the balloon that are closest to the light. Notice they follow the shape of the balloon. I'm not just putting a circle there. They're more like long, stretched out ovals, and you can do a few layers. Remember, if you make a mistake, you can just hit undo. I am also adding in the reflective light as I'm doing this. The reflective light is actually light that is going to be next to your darkest part of your shadow. In real life, we don't have just one light source, but multiple. So reflective light is light from all those different light sources reflecting off of surfaces and other objects, and it's normally seen closest to your shadows. When you are finished, make sure you save your picture so that you can upload it to Seesaw. Here is the finished product. Now we'll take a look at the maps. Here are all the highlights circled in yellow. Notice the shape and the placement. Now let's take a look at the shadows. Notice that the shadows curve around with the balloon, and they are on the opposite side from the highlight. In the reflective light, there are these long, thin, curved strips of light that are near your darkest shadows. Now your balloon dog has form. Look at how much more 3D it looks than it did in the beginning.